Wait, let me just read this. Freedom House is an aftercare home for trafficking survivors here in San Mateo County. And as again, he's going to talk about that. But after 30 years in the ministry, Barney, father of two and grandfather of two, as he mentioned, he has the best two granddaughters. Is that what you said? Yeah. Works with people in San Francisco in the Tenderloin, as well as the Haight-Ashbury district. Through his work on the street, he encounters the human trafficking tragedy in the Bay Area. For the last 5 years, he has worked as an advocate for the Freedom House and aftercare facility for trafficking survivors. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Barney. You can just take over my...
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you. First of all, I want to say that I really appreciate the work of Rotary. I haven't been that familiar, and I did look up what you as a club do, and it's pretty phenomenal. All the places that you have your influence in, dictionaries for third graders, and sending high school kids to leadership camp, and taking at-risk kids to miniature golfing, building hiking trails, supporting cancer research. I'm a cancer survivor myself, so I appreciate that. And then internationally, Ghana, Uganda, Japan, Philippines, Nepal, Thailand, Mexico. I mean, I don't know how you do all this, but you do, and I appreciate it. I've come to talk to you about, like was said, kind of a disturbing topic to wake up with. This is a difficult thing to talk about, and I apologize for having to be so graphic. The reality is, there are people that are so soulless in this world as to make their living on the abduction and rape and incarceration and exploitation and selling of other humans. It's ghastly. Did you know that there are twice as many people in one form of slavery or the other, twice as many as were the entire compilation of slaves during the 350 years of the transatlantic slave trade? And they estimate between 27 and 47 million people are in some form of bondage, domestic servitude, labor, slavery, and sexual exploitation. Even in our blessed United States, let me see how we can do here. Should I point it or? Sure you can. But even in our country, there are between 14,000, 17,000 human beings trafficked into our country every year. So they say that about 50,000 people are in slavery in our country. About half of them are children. The average age of a trafficked child into prostitution is between 11 and 14, all the way down to 9 years old. There are European and American sex tourists that go to places like Mexico and can rent a child for $15. It's the fastest growing crime in the world because, you know, if you traffic drugs, you sell them and that you're done. You've sold your drug. You don't have those drugs. You have to get some others. But if you traffic a human being, you can abuse and use and rent and sell that human being over and over and over. Like I said, I have 2 granddaughters myself, so this is terrifying. So how does this happen? Well, force, fraud, and coercion are the ways that people get lured or forced into a traffic situation. Let me just tell you one story of a woman named Sylvia in Mexico City who was molested from the day she was about 5 years old until 12 in her own home. Then one day, a Romeo pimp named Carlos showed up, found her out in the street, and he's 22, she's 12. And he romances her into a relationship, and for the first 3 months, they were in a horrific relationship, 12 and 22, but what she considered good for her, blessed, she enjoyed the gifts and the clothes and the flowers and the chocolate. Then one day he started beating her with a chain. Punched her, kicked her, pulled her hair, spit in her face, burned her with a hot iron and called her a whore, and then trafficked her, prostituted her. And she was prostituted for 4 years. She estimates over 40,000 rapes of her, 30 men a day, 7 days a week for 4 years. I mean, how does anybody survive that? I don't know. She wrote, once she did get rescued, well, then at 15, her pimp, I don't like to use the word pimp because it has this kind of groovy connotation in some, hip-hop kind of language. Trafficker, prostituter, abuser, exploiter is better, but he got her pregnant, intentionally got her pregnant, and then tightened the noose on her neck with the threats of harm or death to this baby if she didn't do what he said. And then the cops showed up, several dozen cops, and she thought were free, but they took videos of the girls. She said there were girls down to 10 years old in this house, and took videos and then threatened to send those videos to their families if they didn't do what they said. She was rescued finally, and she wrote, "These minors are being abducted, lured, yanked away from their families. Don't just listen to me. Learn about what happened to me and take the blindfold off of your eyes," she said. So that's, Mexico City, but all around the world, trafficking is, in fact, as was said, in our own backyard. The Bay Area is one of the 4 hottest spots of trafficking in the country because of our economy, diverse population, large socioeconomic gap, 3 airports, tourist attractions. 4 months ago, 4 traffickers were busted in San Bruno, in the suburbs. Last year, 2016, this county hired Mike Brosnan, the human trafficking program coordinator. Every county in this country needs to have such a person, and isn't that sad? So what happens to the trafficked? What I'd like to do is, Mike, let's play this song, and I'll just flip the slides so that you hear this it will touch another part of us to hear this song about how a trafficker changes the name of his trafficked victim for the purposes of exploitation of this human.
Drugs by the candlelight. The feeling's numb, but the pain's not gone. She holds her breath while they carry on. She fought real hard, she fought back then. Now she's giving up, now even tasted me.
One of the things that we've had to address is not only the change of the name of the trafficked individual, but the survivor still has tattoos on her neck often of the changed name or of the trafficker's name or of some logo that represents their trafficking group. And so every time they look in the mirror, that's what they see of themselves, right? So we've had to hire tattoo artists to remove the tattoos so that they can go back to who they, were intended to be and who they were. So trafficking, abolitionism of trafficking is done in really 3 stages: prevention, intervention, and aftercare. So think of it as a river of sewage that people get pushed into and drown in the sewage and die. And so people go upstream and to try to keep people from being pushed in, prevention, intervention, and then aftercare, going downstream to pull victims out of this sewage, give them CPR, and hopefully some loving care and therapy to be able to be well enough to be reintegrated into society. And that's what Freedom House does. That's what we do. We do the aftercare part since 2010. I mean, like I said, I can't even imagine the PTSD that's involved in somebody that has been relentlessly and long-term abused in this way. The life expectancy of a traffic survivor is 7 years, either through HIV or murder or suicide or drug overdose. They don't usually live very long after this kind of abuse. When I as a pastor for 30 years, I was thrust into a lot of counseling situations that were way over my head, so I referred a lot of the specialized therapy needs that people had to other therapists. But this kind of therapy, the specialized trauma therapy, is something in another category of bringing health and wholeness to a person again. There's something they call learned helplessness, and they study this. If you're an animal lover, this won't please you to hear this story, but the study entailed a dog. And so they put a dog in a cage and rang a bell, and when they rang the bell, they electrocuted the cage and shocked the dog, didn't kill it, but shocked the dog. And of course he yelped and tried to get out. And then they did it over and over and over and over and over until the dog didn't yelp to get out anymore, try to get out, but curled up in a ball, and when he heard the bell, right? And then they took its learned helplessness. So then they took the top off and rang the bell, and still it curled up in a ball. It didn't try to jump out and get out because of learned helplessness. This is what happens to somebody that is victimized in this way. It's just over and over and over. So our mission at Freedom House is we're a faith-based home to bring hope, restoration, and a new life to human trafficking survivors by providing a safe home and long-term aftercare. So we don't just have a facility, we make a family. One homeless girl, somebody said to this little homeless girl, they said, well, it's too bad you don't have a home. And she said, well, we have a home, we just don't have a house to put it in. And so a traffic survivor doesn't have a home or a house. And they need more than just a drop-in, but a live-in context. That's what we provide. Because time does not heal all wounds. But a lot of wounds do take a lot of time to heal. And it takes specialized work to do with a survivor. And so what we do is we meet basic needs: housing, food, clothing, transportation, stabilization. We do case management, social service, legal, medical, psychological, spiritual work. Under legal, there's something that was passed a few years ago called the T visa, so that a trafficked individual doesn't get deported and further victimized if they want to stay here or can stay here. There's a T visa. But the medical, psychological, spiritual needs are just gargantuan. and then to be able to be reintegrated into society. Life skills training we do, language support, job support, education, graduation. Many of our women have graduated from high school or gone to the junior college. And so there are volunteer opportunities for dentists, trauma therapists, lawyers, graphic designers, translators, web designers, grant writers, teachers, tutors, IT specialists. Other ways to get involved are to shelter volunteers to go in. This is only for women, to go in and just hang with the survivors and just love on them and be there. Advocate volunteers like I'm doing right now. Event volunteers. We have an event coming up. On your table you'll see a card for next week in Los Altos. There's this child prodigy pianist that's putting on a concert in one of the churches in Los Altos. It's a fundraiser for Freedom House. We have a gala every year. We do various events. Language advocates, because some of the women, don't have English as their first language. And then, like I said, professional service providers. And then supporting the work of Freedom House financially. You can see what $50, $100, $250, $500 provides. And then sometimes people will donate items to the house, which is in this county, by the way. Toiletries, household items, transportation vouchers, gift cards, and etc. And so our website is freedomhousesf.org, and you can look there. In fact, I also have some brochures on the table there. The website's there. It tells more about what we do. Thank you very much. Yes, I was going to give some Q&A time. Yes, sir.
Most of these are young girls, and boys, especially in San Francisco?
Oh, of course there are. We can't serve the boys in our home, but yes, there are boys trafficked.
What happens to, I don't know if you know this, what happens to the trafficked individuals? Do they kill them right away, or do they let them go through court and stuff like that? Okay,
Are you asking
your smile gave it away.
Are you asking?
I know you're a minister.
Are you asking my preference or what's going to happen? So, yeah, as a matter of fact, Prop 35 that just passed last year by a margin of a higher margin than any California proposal since 1914, 81%, which I can't believe it wasn't 100%, but passed Prop 35, which increased the criminal penalties up to 15 years up to life, depending on the situation. Life in prison. Fines up to $1.5 million, and believe me, they can afford it. And then some of the fines go to work with law enforcement and victim services. And it requires, if they do get out of prison, that they have to register as a sex offender and provide information about their internet access if they do get out of prison, what kind of identities they use online and so on. So yes, the penalties are more and more severe as states are coming to terms with this. Yes, sir.
What's your current funding structure?
Freedom House's funding structure, it's all by donation. It's all by raising funds at events and people that give. I mean, that's as much as I can say about that. Yes?
Several of us have been involved in going to the former Soviet Union countries, working with the orphans there.
Wow.
There are almost 1 million orphans if you take Ukraine and Russia. And those kids are trafficked through Istanbul. There is an organ, you would think Istanbul was a relatively advanced place.
Right.
But they have a regular market there. And the survival rate is what you just said. Most of them are dead by 25.
Yeah.
And never seen again. There's over 1,000 girls a year, and some boys too.
Yeah.
are transported illegally, but through coercion.
Yeah.
It's the methods you mentioned.
Right.
And so it's a live, it's all over the place.
Yeah, it is. It is all over the
And they're
place.
starting to crack down, but
Yeah.
what we have done, Jim right here has been involved too, life skill training
Yep.
at the orphanage so that the kids feel they can do something
Wow.
with themselves, even though they aren't really properly ready for a full job yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it is all over the world. We're not talking about just, some of the least likely you would think. They say at any given moment, there are in this country 50,000 predators trolling the internet looking for children. 50,000 at any moment. Yeah. Poverty is at the root of a lot of this, of course. And so one of the prevention, those that do abolitionism from a prevention vantage point will go in and do community development to raise the economic level of a community so that there's less of an advantage to those that would come to traffic other individuals. Any other questions? Thank you so very much. I really appreciate your